He was once the seventh richest person in the world, with a staggering $30 billion net worth. Yet through unimaginable events, he plunged into negative territory, minus $1 billion, and worse, 30 years in prison without a penny. This epic fall from grace is the story of Brazilian tycoon Eike Batista. Join us as we unravel the crazy riches-to-rags rollercoaster of this Brazilian tycoon, following his meteoric rise to massive wealth all the way through to his utterly shocking and dramatic downfall. Early life of Batista. On November 3, 1956, Eike Batista entered the world born to privilege in Governador Valadares, Brazil. His father, Eike Batista, was a prominent Brazilian businessman who had served as Brazil's Minister of Mines and Energy in the 1960s. With such a powerful businessman for a father, Eike grew up accustomed to wealth and status from a young age. Though born in Brazil, Eike spent much of his early childhood in Europe alongside his mother Yuta and his 6 siblings. This was due to his father's work taking him all across the globe to serve in lofty advisory positions for companies and governments alike. At just 36 years old, Eliezer became president of Vale do Rio Doce, one of Brazil's largest mining and metals companies at the time. With a father occupying the top job at one of Brazil's most influential mining companies, Eike was exposed from early on to the inner workings of the industry. This look behind the curtain likely stoked his fascination with mining and planted the seeds of ambition to follow in his father's entrepreneurial footsteps one day. In 1974, at age 18, after years spent traveling between Switzerland, Germany, and Belgium, Eike and his family finally returned to their birth country of Brazil. However, Eike decided to strike out on his own and continue his schooling in Europe. He moved to Germany and enrolled at the University of Aachen, embarking on a degree in metallurgical engineering. Though his family likely could have funded his education, Eike opted to make his own way and took up selling insurance door-to-door to earn his keep. He later cited this as one of the most valuable experiences of his life, as the pressure of having to sell policies to make rent forced him to develop his powers of persuasion and business savvy. After years of honing his skills charming clients, combined with the technical knowledge from his metals engineering program, Eike had acquired the perfect blend of science and salesmanship he would later deploy to such great effect. However, in 1981, at just 25 years old, Eike began feeling restless with academic life. He started hearing tales of a new Amazon gold rush gripping Brazil and saw a chance to finally try his hand at business. Trusting ambition over education, Eike decided to drop out of university and return home to put his talents to the test. It was a move that would come to define his destiny, getting his start in gold trading. In the early 1980s, Brazil's economy was stagnant and crippled with debt. As inflation drove prices up and the value of cash down, Brazilians began viewing gold as one of the only stable assets. Seizing this opportunity, in 1982, the 24-year-old founded his first business, Outram Orum, a mining and gold trading company. Eike put his engineering studies to use right away, traveling deep into the Amazon rainforest to connect with small-scale local mining outfits. His knowledge helped assess the quality of their product. Once mined, Eike would buy the raw gold himself and transport it back to major cities like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Here, his salesmanship came into play, allowing him to deftly negotiate deals with high-end jewelry makers and gold vendors. By cutting out middlemen and connecting producers directly with wealthy clients, Eike could buy gold at cheaper prices in the wilderness and sell at a premium in the city. This simplicity of this business model, combined with Eike's energy and magnetism, led Outram Orum to enormous early success. Within the first 18 months alone, the company netted an astounding $6 million in profits. Now cashed up, Eike's ambition pushed him to expand his burgeoning empire. In 1984, he founded EBX Group, the holding company under which all his future enterprises would operate. With EBX formed, Eike turned his focus towards supercharging Brazil's antiquated gold mining operations. At the time, techniques in the Amazon were still rudimentary. Miners panned for gold by hand or used basic metal sluice boxes. Eike had a vision to revolutionize this by bringing advanced technology and mechanization to the region. In 1986, he invested heavily in Brazil's first mechanized alluvial mining plant, custom-built to efficiently extract gold from the waterways of the Amazon. The technology let miners glean 3 times as much gold for half the effort. With productivity skyrocketing, miners flocked to make use of Eike's state-of-the-art mining equipment. The costs of the technology were quickly recovered as gold poured in at unprecedented rates. Now ready to expand beyond Brazil's borders, in 1989 Eike acquired a small Canadian mining company, renaming it TVX Gold. He rapidly took the firm public, listing it on the Montreal Stock Exchange and raising fresh capital for his ventures. By the close of the 1990s, EBX had grown to operate 8 highly lucrative mines across Brazil, Canada, and Chile. As the gold rush swelled his fortune to staggering new heights, grander visions continued forming in Eike's mind. The charismatic young tycoon enjoyed the fruits of his labors while laying the groundwork for his next big move. For Eike Batista, the best was yet to come: building an empire. By the year 2000, Eike Batista had well and truly arrived, not just as a gold trader, but as a full-fledged mining tycoon at the helm of a bustling empire. After getting his start buying and selling gold in the Amazon rainforest, Eike leveraged his profits wisely. He invested in bringing modern mechanization and technology to Brazil's outdated mining operations. This allowed him to rapidly scale up production at his own mines and reap the rewards. Under the umbrella of his holding company, EBX Group, formed in 1984, Eike had spent the 90s aggressively expanding his mining ventures both at home and abroad. After taking his Canadian mining outfit TVX Gold public in the late 80s, by the turn of the millennium, EBX had become a thriving multinational mining enterprise. Across Brazil, Canada, and Chile, EBX was operating no less than 8 highly lucrative gold mines, as well as a silver mine in Chile. Eike's mines had tapped into prime gold-rich regions of the Amazon, as well as the Canadian Shield's mineral-heavy geology. With advanced equipment and techniques, his mines were able to extract gold and other minerals at astounding efficiencies. This allowed EBX to realize staggering production numbers year after year. In total, it's estimated that between 1980 and 2000, the value of precious metals and minerals produced by Eike's empire topped a mammoth $20 billion. At one point, Eike's gold mining operations alone were raking in upwards of 800,000 ounces annually, worth over $300 million. Yet mining was just the beginning for ambitious Eike. As his wealth grew exponentially through the 90s, he began laying the groundwork to diversify his holdings into a range of other industries. This all started in 1994 when Eike founded IMX, focusing on iron ore mining. However, his biggest move came in 2001 with the creation of MPX, a power generation company based in Rio de Janeiro. This signaled Eike's intent to expand beyond simply mining resources into energy production. In 2005, Eike continued his diversification push, founding the company MMX, which returned to mining roots, but with a focus on iron ore extraction and logistics. Then, in 2007, came his most ambitious endeavor yet: OGX Petróleo e Gas, an oil and natural gas company. With OGX, Eike was intent on transforming Brazil into a major global producer of fossil fuels. Each new company under the EBX umbrella was listed separately on the Brazilian Stock Exchange, but still ultimately rolled up to Eike. There was a method to these new additions, as Eike carefully chose industries with the potential for huge growth in the Brazilian economy during the 2000 commodities boom. However, Eike also simply relished building new empires and made it a signature move to incorporate the letter X into all his company names. He claimed the letter stood for multiplicacao, the Portuguese word for multiplication. This reflected his vision that every new venture would multiply his wealth exponentially. As EBX continued expanding aggressively across industries in the early 2000s, this prediction certainly seemed to be coming true. By mid-decade, the former gold trader's empire had diversified into a thriving conglomerate with footholds in minerals, energy, logistics, and beyond. At the core of it all, though, was still EBX Group, along with Eike's flagship precious metals mining business. From humble beginnings buying Amazonian gold, Eike had multiplied his initial success and transformed EBX into a multi-billion mining powerhouse spanning 3 continents. Now, with a wildly diversified business empire under his control, Eike Batista well and truly solidified his status as a mining magnate. The restless tycoon was already laying the foundations for what would come next, a headlong rush into oil exploration that would make him Brazil's richest man. However, this next phase of expansion would also plant the seeds of his downfall, setting the stage for history's most spectacular collapse of wealth: becoming a billionaire. By the mid-2000s, Eike Batista had built himself quite the business empire centered around mining and commodities. But the ambitious Brazilian tycoon had his sights set even higher, harboring dreams of not just joining the billionaire ranks, but becoming the wealthiest person on Earth. His ticket to realizing that goal would come in the form of oil. In 2006, Brazil's national oil company Petrobras announced a staggering discovery: the Tupi oil field off the coast of Rio de Janeiro, containing up to 8 billion barrels of oil. It was the largest oil reserve found in the Americas since 1976 and promised to catapult Brazil onto the global energy stage. Sensing the immense opportunity, in 2007, Eike founded his latest venture, OGX Petróleo e Gas. He was determined to leverage the Tupi discovery to transform OGX into a major international oil player. That same year, he secured exploration rights and began scouring Brazil's offshore basins for potential reserves to tap into. After surveying over 44,000 square miles of seabed, in 2008, OGX hit big. Eike declared they had discovered recoverable oil and gas deposits totaling 10 to 15 billion barrels, worth up to $1 trillion. He dubbed the reserves the OGX-26 block. At the time, oil prices were soaring, nearing $150 per barrel due to surging Chinese demand. If Eike could get the OGX fields producing at scale, he was looking at $60 million of potential revenue daily. Investors eagerly lined up to get a piece of the action. In June 2080, OGX held its initial public offering on the São Paulo Stock Exchange, raising a whopping $4.3 billion. It was the largest IPO in Brazilian history at the time. With oil prices high and hype around OGX surging, shares rocketed from 7.8 Brazilian real to 38.25 Brazilian real on the first day of trading. Just like that, Eike's net worth skyrocketed. By December 2008, his fortune had swelled to $6.6 billion, granting him membership into the elite Forbes billionaire list. Powered by EBX Group and OGX, shares of his empire continued climbing over the next 18 months. As stocks soared from the oil and commodities boom, so did Eike's net worth. Remarkably, by March 2010, it had ballooned to $27 billion, an unfathomable increase of $20 billion in just over a year. This granted him 7th spot on Forbes' World's Billionaires ranking and first place as Brazil's richest man. Now one of the 10 wealthiest humans on the planet, Eike was flying high, and predictably, he enjoyed his dizzying new status to the fullest. Beyond business, he indulged passions for supercars, speedboats, and luxurious properties across Brazil. After an extravagant wedding to supermodel Luma de Oliveira in 1991, the couple had 7 children before divorcing in 2004. In the public sphere, Eike did all he could to enhance Brazil's image and pride. He helped the government to host the 2016 Olympics. All the while, he loudly told media that he'd become the world's richest person within 10 years, boasting his fortune would top $100 billion. His overconfidence didn't exactly endear him to the humble Carlos Slim, then the richest man, whom he taunted he would soon unseat. This larger-than-life persona of extreme wealth and success created intrigue and admiration among many Brazilians who saw him as a symbol of the country's economic potential. However, Eike also drew plenty of criticism from those concerned with his shady practices. Aside from braggadocio, his environmental track record was troubling. His mining operations had been fined repeatedly for breaches throughout the 2000s. In 2008, a group of indigenous Tupi-Guarani accused his logistics company LLX of coercing them to vacate ancestral land. That same year, police raided his home on suspicions of tax evasion and gold smuggling, but ultimately found no evidence of wrongdoing. Nonetheless, Eike lived under constant scrutiny, his lofty status attracting praise and contempt in equal measure. But for now, the billions were still flowing in, and Eike was riding high. With a new lead company at the forefront, the former gold trader had created a roaringly successful multi-billion-dollar commodities empire spanning from minerals to oil. Now, one of Earth's richest humans, the question was, could the momentum continue? Or was he simply in the calm before the inevitable storm? Lavish lifestyle and public image. By 2011, the answer seemed clear. Eike Batista had reached the very pinnacle of wealth and fame. With a net worth of over $30 billion and the 8th richest person on Earth, he was larger than life. The antithesis of a humble billionaire, Eike made sure the world knew just how rich he was at every chance. With a model ex-wife and 6 children, Eike lived a lifestyle of extreme luxury that seemed to taunt other billionaires. He soon amassed a dazzling car collection including a $2.2 million Lamborghini Reventon, a $1.7 million Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren, and a $480,000 Ferrari Spider. But fast cars were just the start. Eike went on to assemble a lavish fleet of super yachts he'd race competitively. He bought a $13 million Bombardier Global Express XRS private jet, and later upgraded to a $42 million Gulfstream G650. He purchased sprawling properties across Brazil, including a $20 million beachside mansion in Rio de Janeiro, where he docked his yachts just steps from his back door. The divorce kept company with celebrities and models, even romancing actress Louise Altenhofen, who was almost 30 years his junior. Everywhere Eike went, he exuded extravagance and bravado. He made it widely known his ambition was to surpass Carlos Slim and seize the title of world's richest person within just a few years. With a larger-than-life persona, Eike courted media attention and used it to present Brazil as a prosperous, thriving economy. His financial backing helped Rio secure the winning bid for the 2016 Olympics, seen as a big victory for the nation. He pumped money into flashy sailing events off Rio's beaches, sponsorship deals, and beyond. Many Brazilians saw Eike as a symbol of the country's potential and capacity for success on an international scale. He was known to excitedly liken Brazil's 21st century economy to a prospering Qatar. Energy company EBX even released a promotional rap video featuring dancers sambaing with the lyrics, "It's so cool to be Brazilian." However, Eike also had plenty of detractors turned off by the way he almost seemed to flaunt his extreme wealth. Aside from braggadocio, critics found his business practices to be questionable at times. This criticism only grew as his empire expanded. His original mining company, now called MMX, had been fined for environmental breaches throughout the 2000s, paying out tens of millions in damages. Indigenous community leaders claimed his companies used coercion to seize traditional lands. And despite being cleared of charges, in 2008, police raided his home to investigate tax evasion and gold smuggling. The collapse begins. By 2012, Eike Batista seemed unstoppable. With a net worth of $30 billion built on commodities and oil, he was one of Earth's richest people and Brazil's greatest business icon. However, behind the scenes, the first cracks in his empire were beginning to show. That year, gold prices unexpectedly plunged, dealing a blow to EBX Group, Eike's core mining and metals company. In 2011, prices had peaked at around $1,800 per ounce. But over the next year, they sunk rapidly, bottoming out below $1,200 per ounce in 2013. This sudden flash crash was driven by complex factors. Some speculate big banks manipulated prices lower intentionally. But regardless of cause, the effect was instant for Eike. With much of his early fortune built on gold mining, EBX Group's profitability sank fast. Their costs stayed high while revenue dropped sharply with gold prices in free fall. Making matters worse, Eike's ambitious oil venture OGX was also faltering. In 2008, OGX promised investors they could produce over 750,000 barrels of oil per day, generating potential revenue of $45 million daily. However, when production began in 2010, yields were dismally low. It turned out OGX had drastically overestimated the capacity of Brazil's offshore oil fields. By 2013, they were pumping just 15,000 barrels a day, a mere 2% of their projection. With such low yields, OGX had no means to cover operating costs, let alone repay their debts. By 2013, the double-gut punch of plunging gold revenue and disappointingly low oil production had put Eike in dire straits. Problems rapidly began to compound across his empire as excessive debt, sinking commodity prices, and overexpansion collided. With investors and creditors losing faith fast, Eike scrambled to save face. He began selling off assets like LLX Logistica and his beloved boat racing team. He tried injecting $1 billion of his own wealth into OGX to restore confidence, but the company was too far gone. Hemorrhaging cash and credibility, Eike suffered blow after blow over the coming months. By September 2013, plunging share prices had sunk his net worth from $30 billion to just $200 million in a year, a cataclysmic loss of 99%. In October, OGX buckled, defaulting on over $3 billion in debts to creditors like pension funds and sovereign wealth funds. With no way out, the once mighty OGX filed for bankruptcy protection on October 30, 2013. It was the largest corporate bankruptcy in Latin American history at the time, sending shockwaves across global markets. Investors recoiled from the damage, triggering a chain reaction across Eike's empire. The following year, shipbuilder OSX went bust, followed by coal mining venture CCX in 2015, then electricity generator MPX and precious metals company MMX in 2016. In just 3 years, Eike's vast $30 billion industrial empire had all but evaporated. The man who recently had it all was left essentially bankrupt, from billions to bankruptcy. By January 2014, Eike Batista's net worth had gone from a peak of $32 billion to negative $1.2 billion, the largest collapse of wealth in history. His downfall since 2012 had been utterly astonishing in both scale and speed. The tycoon was now saddled with over $1 billion in personal debts and liabilities. Desperate for cash, he sold his mansions, yachts, and remaining assets like private jets. The lavish speedboats he loved racing were auctioned off. His luxury cars were seized one by one, including his Lamborghini and Ferrari. The private airport he built in Rio was taken over by creditors. Stripped of wealth and assets, Eike's other problems now came home to roost. In January 2014, Brazilian regulators filed criminal charges against Eike for allegedly deceiving investors. As head of OGX, he was accused of hiding oil production problems while simultaneously selling over $850 million of his shares. Prosecutors labeled this multi-million-dollar stock dump insider trading and market manipulation. Eike denied wrongdoing, insisting he'd done nothing illegal. But regardless, his empire lay in ruins. The man once worth $32 billion now had a net worth of negative $1.2 billion by some estimates. Eike tried desperately to cling to whatever assets remained in Brazil, Austria, and the US, but courts have frozen these holdings. He grew so desperate that in 2016, he even enlisted a psychic's help, tossing 500,000 worth of coins and trinkets into the sea on their advice as a symbolic repentance gesture. Yet just as his wealth evaporated, so did Eike's freedom. With nothing left to lose, Brazilian authorities began pursuing Eike aggressively for crimes committed during his rapid ascent and disastrous fall. Investigators were determined to prove his fortune had been built not only on hubris and incompetence, but systematic fraud and corruption as well. The former billionaire playboy soon found his lavish penthouse life exchanged for a jail cell. Far from repentant even in collapse, Eike remained defiant until the very end, convinced he was an unbeatable spirit that would rise again. But the final chapter in Eike's story was already being written, and his hubris was about to face judgment, legal troubles, and arrest. By 2014, Eike Batista's stunning collapse was complete. His net worth fell to negative $1.2 billion in just 2 years. His oil company OGX and 5 other firms had imploded. Creditors seized his jets, yachts, mansions, and luxury cars, and the fallen billionaire now faced criminal charges for insider trading at the wrecked OGX. Yet as staggering as his financial undoing was, Eike's legal and reputational ruin had only just begun. In 2014, he became a target of Operation Car Wash, a sweeping corruption probe shaking Brazil's business and political elite. Investigators were determined to prove Eike's empire was built not just on hubris, but systematic bribery and fraud. The intense scrutiny resulted in Eike going from troubled tycoon to full-blown fugitive in a matter of years. In January 2017, Brazilian authorities issued arrest warrants for Eike and his associate Fernando Moura. The charges were money laundering and corruption, accusing the pair of paying $16.5 million in bribes related to the Petrobras scandal engulfing Brazil. Specifically, investigators alleged Eike paid former Rio de Janeiro governor Sergio Cabral $16.5 million in exchange for state infrastructure contracts. With these lucrative government deals, Eike positioned his EBX group to profit massively off the 2014 World Cup and 2016 Olympics held in Rio. According to charges, the bribes allowed Eike to gain appointment as chairman of the publicly funded Novo Maracana Consortium, created to redevelop Rio's iconic Maracana Stadium ahead of the major sporting events. This allegedly rigged process ensured construction contracts were unfairly steered towards Eike's companies to the tune of over $100 million. These serious accusations put Eike in the crosshairs of Operation Car Wash, the biggest anti-corruption crackdown in Brazil's history. The investigation had already taken down high-profile businessmen, politicians, and Petrobras executives on organized bribery allegations. Now they'd set their sights on taking down the former face of Brazilian capitalism. In mid-January 2017, just days before his arrest warrants were issued, Eike boarded a flight to New York, seemingly in an attempt to flee prosecution. However, he underestimated the reach of Brazilian justice. Within weeks, U.S. authorities had tracked him down in a Florida hotel and arrested him for extradition back to Brazil. Eike vehemently denied all bribery allegations, maintaining his innocence and railing against the injustices done to him. Nonetheless, with Brazil determined to make an example of him, his days as a free man were numbered. In early February 2017, Eike was extradited back to Rio de Janeiro, where he was imprisoned in the grim Bangu maximum security jail, a far cry from his former $13 million beachfront mansion. Far from the cushy house arrest many white-collar criminals enjoy, Bangu was notoriously harsh. Cramped cells built for one held up to 4 inmates who took turns sleeping on filthy mats. Prison riots were common in the chaos, with rat infestations, insufficient rations, and extreme violence from gangs. For a once untouchable tycoon long shielded from consequences by money and power, the reality check was severe. By April 2017, Eike won a transfer to house arrest until trial, aided by his lawyer's appeals. But relief was short-lived. That December, he was hit with $6.3 million in fines for insider trading crimes at OGX. In July 2018, the real hammer fell when Eike was sentenced to 30 years imprisonment for bribery, money laundering, and other corruption convictions relating to the Petrobras scandal. While spared return to prison by further house arrest appeals, Eike Batista's precipitous fall from grace was now complete. The man who once commanded a $32 billion empire and helicoptered to meetings on Rio's beaches was now a convict confined to his living room, stripped of everything but his shattered pride, a tempted comeback. Given the ruin Eike Batista's unchecked ambition and greed had unleashed on his life, most would have been left humbled and ashamed in disgrace. But Eike was cut from a different cloth. Despite losing his empire and freedom and facing scores in legal judgments against him, he remained defiant. In October 2020, Eike shocked Brazil's business community by announcing a new mining venture and his intention to rebuild his fortune and empire. Granted house arrest at his $4 million Rio mansion, he incorporated two new companies focused on mining gold, diamonds, and rare earth metals. According to Eike, he'd secured financial backing and investment partnerships worth $800 million to fund his mining comeback. This money would go towards acquiring new concessions and equipment and reviving his old gold mining assets, which remained unused but intact across Brazil. Eike claimed he'd turned over a new leaf and sought redemption through work. He promised to use his business talent for good, bringing prosperity to rural regions through job creation and infrastructure development. Seeking to make amends, he also pledged to repay all his leftover debts. For most in Brazil's capital markets, seeing Eike plotting yet another ambitious corporate foray inspired more horror than hope. The wounds left by his spectacular self-destruction were still raw, and his audacious vows to rise phoenix-like from the ashes reeked more of hubris than humility. Yet for all his glaring flaws, Eike Batista's life is nothing if not a testament to the power of ambition. His repeated ability to will billion-dollar enterprises into existence from sheer determination alone is enough to give even his skeptics pause. And while humble atonement may remain elusive, his defiant quest for one more comeback has won him a sliver of grudging admiration. In the eyes of many Brazilians, Eike's refusal to stay down and accept defeat, however undeserved, is a reflection of their nation's culture of relentless striving. Like her prodigal son, Brazil won't settle for less than its envisioned glory, whatever the cost. And so for now, this dreamer continues dreaming, unbowed and unbroken amidst the wreckage of his once mighty kingdom. The final chapter remains unwritten. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.